When the setting sun bled across the horizon, the royal court of the Bahruth Empire looked like any other night. Nobles sipped wine, courtiers gossiped, while at the far end, Emperor Jerkniv watched from his throne. He had a beautiful face, elegant features, and a gaze that could freeze the blood in your veins. However, tonight, there was a tremor in his normally steady hand, a darkness in his brilliant eyes. Because for the past hour, he'd been reviewing reports from his spy network in the Sorcerer Kingdom. Every bit of news was baffling. The Sorcerer King Ainz hadn't made a move in months. He hadn't attacked, threatened, or even sent an envoy. He ruled over New Nazareth like a benevolent monarch. The kingdom prospered, the people thrived, and even other races lived under Ainz's protection. Did this mean he'd given up on expansion? Did he just want this piece of land? Or was it a trap? Was he biding his time, gathering strength before the final assault? Jerkniv knew he should be relieved, but he couldn't shake off this unease. Suddenly, a noble asked, "Your Majesty, since Ainz hasn't attacked, perhaps we should provoke him. Show him the Bahruth is not to be trifled with." Everyone nodded. This made sense. What if they did a small border raid? A warning shot across the bow. That would teach the Sorcerer King a lesson. But Jerkniv shook his head. No. Never test a sleeping lion. You don't know if he'll bite back. His own father, the late emperor, had learned this the hard way. Years ago, he'd done something similar. He'd sent a few thousand troops into sorcerer territory. Now they were all gone, vanished without a trace. The only evidence, the corpses of a few stragglers who'd barely made it back. Ever since, Jerkniv had sworn to steer clear of Ainz. No provocations, no wars, no problems. Now some of the nobles muttered. Jerkniv didn't rule with an iron fist, but by consensus. He liked debates, ideas, solutions to problems. But this time, there was nothing to say. What did the Sorcerer King want? The answer to this question tormented every ruler in the world, keeping many awake at night. Meanwhile, in the Raestai's kingdom, 4 warlords were enjoying a rare moment of unity. These men controlled half the Western Holy Kingdom. For years, they fought for power, but now they sat around a table, united by a common enemy. "He may be a puppet," said Warlord Barbro, "but Nazareth has its limits. We can push them, find out." Another lord suggested a small border conflict. This would test the Sorcerer King's resolve, maybe even drive him back. But Lord Avis protested. "Don't forget, Ainz is the strongest mage in the world. If he wants to wipe us out, we'll have no chance." But then came a third idea. Why not try a grand bargain? Send a neutral envoy to Nazareth, pretend to be a peaceful merchant caravan, and when they entered the city, assassinate Ainz right in front of everyone. As they discussed routes and timing, Duke Ted, the oldest of the group, fell silent. He was thinking about something else. When the Sorcerer Kingdom had risen, his family had lost a lot of land. His daughter, his precious little girl, was captured and taken away. All he had was this, a pendant she left behind, a token of their love. As he stared at it, he growled, "Ainz took everything from me, my land, my future, and I swear I'll take his life." Meanwhile, the Overlord had returned to the Great Tomb. He stood in the Hall of the Fallen Monarchs, his cloak billowing behind him, Aura and Mare beside him, silently observing their master. They knew what he wanted. An army of bone, crush the Sorcerer Kingdom, wipe out the humans. But the Overlord shook his head slowly. There's another way. His champions arrived soon after. Cocytus and Demiurge bowed before him. Ainz nodded to them then spoke. "Cocytus, how are the preparations coming along?" Cocytus lowered his head. "We've surveyed the surrounding countries, my king. We know their strengths, weaknesses, cultures, and borders." Ainz nodded again. "Then let us add to that knowledge." He turned to Demiurge. "What are we going to do, my king?" "We are going to play a little game." Ainz smiled faintly. "Oh, you mortals think you've outsmarted me. Sent an assassination squad to New Arantal, eh? How cute." At that moment, Altheim, one of Ainz's floor guardians, approached and bowed. "My king, the trade envoy has entered the city." Ainz nodded once more. "Then let us give them a warm welcome." Demiurge and Cocytus exchanged glances. They knew what this meant. "Yes, my king, this should be fun." That evening, the guest envoy dined with Ainz in the city of Irantel. Everything seemed normal. They had a nice meal, good wine and pleasant conversation. Ainz and his court were charming, polite and graceful. Nothing about them seemed undead or evil. However, as the envoy left, they heard a chuckle. "Did you feel that?" one of them whispered. "Yeah, like he was mocking us." Meanwhile, somewhere in Nazareth, Sebastian, leader of the 8th Squad, was observing the guests. "They're leaving. Shall I eliminate them?" he asked his master. Ainz responded with a soft chuckle. "No need, Sebas. Let them spread rumors throughout the world. I want to hear what they have to say." The next day, the envoy continued their tour of Irantel. They visited the guild, the adventurers, plaza, and even the slums. Everywhere they went, they felt like they were being watched, every word measured, every look dissected. Eventually, they were allowed to return home, but none of them dared speak of what they'd seen. They tried to warn others, but no one believed them. How could a single nation defeat all of the world's armies? Only the foolhardy or the insane would believe such nonsense. But there was one chronicler who wrote it down, someone who kept records of the ancient races and legends. He recorded everything he'd heard, filed it away, and waited. A few weeks later, a strange man arrived at the Sorcerer Kingdom's gate. He was tall and lean with long flowing hair and robes that shimmered like moonlight. He requested an audience with Ainz, saying he had a gift for the Sorcerer King. After some questioning, he was allowed in, and as he walked through the halls of Nazareth, he could feel the power emanating from them. Floor guardians. Each one was stronger than a mid-level adventurer. Finally, he stood before the throne and bowed. "Overlord Ainz, I am Zarios from the slain theocracy. I bring greetings from our high priests." "Greetings," Ainz replied smoothly. He gestured for him to continue. So Zarius opened his robe, revealing two great swords. "We present to you these relics blessed by our gods. They may harm undead creatures." Ainz chuckled softly. "How thoughtful of you." Suddenly, Zarius unsheathed his sword and lunged forward. Ainz raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Cocytus appeared and deflected the blow with ease. "Is that your gift?" Ainz asked. His voice was cold. "To attack us in our own home. Do you really think you can win?" Cocytus grabbed Zarius's wrist and twisted it. The sword clattered to the ground. Zaros struggled, but it was no use. One of the priests had sealed his magic, turning his holy power against him. In a flash, Zaros was surrounded by ice. "Cocytus, prepare to die," Ainz signaled, and the priest was crushed into shards. Soon after, Albedo received a report from Cocytus. She read it, her face darkening. "The fools actually brought weapons to Nazareth. It seems the world still thinks it can fight us." Ainz listened quietly. "The fools think they know me. The foolish humans," he finally said. "But that's all right. Let them plan their rebellion. Let them gather their champions. When the moment comes, I will show them despair." And so the world moved. Not with armies, but with fear, with diplomacy, with schemes. But no one noticed that Nazareth had its eyes and ears everywhere. They knew every plan, every scheme, every betrayal. The world thought they were playing a game, but they were playing against the author. For Ainz Ulgaun didn't play the game. He wrote it.